Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold up there. Hold up there. You thought you were getting the Appalachian ADV Community Podcast, but what you are in fact getting is a special collaboration with Moto Adventure Unscripted Boys and the Tallboys and Trackmaster Boys. So without further ado, let's slide on over to that. Which do you prefer? BMW 310 GS or Suzuki V-Strom 1050 DE?
Probably 1050 DE.
XR 150L or Beta ALP 4.0?
I'm going to go with the ALP 4.0 because that thing is just weird.
Of the following bikes, choose one to buy, one rent, and one to sell. KTM 390 Adventure R, Vogue 300 Rally, Can-Am Origin.
Oh, I'm getting rid of the Origin immediately. No way. The Vogue being a copy of the CRF 300L, which I'm not a huge fan of, I'll rent, and I would buy the 390.
TW 200 Zero FX XR 650L.
I'm going to buy the XR650L. I'm going to rent the T-Dub and sell the Zero FX.
New or old, what ADV bike do you wish on your enemy?
James, which one of the red-headed Huskies was it?
Well, boys, since we love you so much, we're going to give you a bike that was only manufactured for a couple of years. You cannot find parts for it. It was way ahead of its time, and it's the most uncomfortable dual sport I've ever owned in my life. And that would be the 2013 Husky TE449/511. It is a terrible red-headed stepchild that no one wants.
New or old, what dual sport do you wish on your enemy?
I wish my favorite dual sport of all time on my enemy because only real men can ride the mighty KTM LC4 Enduro in all of its vibrating goodness. It's punishing on the road, and I dare them.
Which misery do you choose? Iron butt ride a CRF 300 Rally or hair scramble a Pan America?
James would hair scramble a Pan America, no questions asked.
100%. 100%.
Iron butt an XT 250 or motocross a 390 Enduro R?
I'm motocrossing the 390 Enduro R.
All right, I would like to welcome the jury to the kangaroo court of the Moto Dust Up as we debate which is the best, bestest ADV or dual sports. I am the somewhat Honorable Judge Kane Wagner of Appalachian ADV, Adventure and Dual Sport Motorbiking LLC. I would ask the lawyers of both sides to focus on the facts, using clear language and not bore the hell out of us. The debate should be heated, almost violent at times, and we ask that the jury throw as many rotten tomatoes as possible when they disagree with the point from these so-called experts. James and Trevor from Tallboys and Trackmasters are representing dual sports, motorcycles. Please state your names for the record.
Well, Honorable Mr. Wagner, we appreciate the opportunity to come before the court today and explain our privacy and case here that dual sports are superior to adventure bikes. And I am James Wright with Tallboys and Trackmasters.
Trevor Schoonover with Tallboys and Trackmasters, Your Honor, and I pulled up here dressed like Saul Goodman and intend to defend accordingly.
Drew and Mark from Moto Adventure Unscripted, representing ADV Motorcycles. Please state your names for the record.
I am Drew Faulkner, the CEO of Moto Adventure Unscripted, and this is my partner, Mark. Mark, go ahead.
I am Drew's hetero life mate. I don't have a fancy accent prepared like James did, and I don't want to embarrass myself by trying my Australian one in public. But I look forward to kicking their asses in this debate.
All right, so the ground rules for this. Debated motorcycles must be new and purchasable on a dealer floor as we speak. Dual sport motorcycles are defined as a single-cylinder motorcycle with factory DOT required equipment, no windscreen, and a 21-inch front wheel. A couple notable exceptions, the XR 150L and the TW 200. Adventure motorcycles are defined as a street legal motorcycle with factory windshield, and a 19 or a 21-inch wheel. So the first segment we're going to discuss here, this ADV versus dual sport discussion. Which is the best? And I would like to make your case for why your segment has the best travel motorcycle. I will open up to the dual sport team first.
Thank you there, Mr. Wagner. We appreciate the opportunity to come out on the floor first. We would say that this court case is going to come down to one very simple fact, and that is dual sport bikes weigh about a half as much as adventure bikes do. And whenever you're trying to travel and you're trying to get somewhere, you don't want any limitations in front of you or behind you. So dual sport motorcycles are the best travel motorcycle simply because they do not give you any limitations when it comes to where you can go or what you can do. Thank you, Your Honor.
Amen.
Adventure team, your response?
Well, if it pleases the court, I would open by complimenting you, Judge Kane Wagner, on your impeccable beard and pulled back hair. It pleases me to get to view such beauty, to be honest. Something you don't witness often in the adventure and dual sport segment of motorcycling. With that said, I have never been in court, unlike clearly James has been. I would like to mention, however, that the best travel motorcycle is going to be an adventure motorcycle. I don't even think you can argue that it would be a dual sport motorcycle. We have low stress engines. We have multiple cylinders for less vibration and more power, by the way. Creature comforts, navigation, provisions for hard luggage, a high weight, which actually is going to be a benefit in bad weather and on-road tours. Not to mention longer service intervals.
Now, objection, Your Honor. Objection, Your Honor. Now, these service intervals you're talking about here, now, I will say that, yes, it is true that dual sport motorcycles require more frequent maintenance, but I will say when that maintenance needs done, it's a hell of a lot easier to do on a dual sport than it is on an adventure bike. Nobody wants to take apart all those little plastic clips holding the fairings on and sit there for 3 days to get anything apart to check the valve clearances and such. I rest my case.
I would like to suggest that you drink less beer while working on your adventure motorcycle, because if it's taking you 3 days to take a side fairing off of an adventure bike and put back on, you're clearly doing it wrong. It should take at least 5 days, James. Everyone knows this.
It's true. I will agree with that point, sir.
Plus boxer engines.
Zing.
With that, I rest my case.
But the natural enemy of the boxer engine's 2 rocks closer together than 3 feet.
That's hearsay.
I've witnessed it.
That's bullshit.
Objection.
Well, I thought this was a family court now. Come on now.
I'll have order in my court.
Hold him in contempt.
Add it to my tab.
Well, I will start by saying flattery will get you everywhere.
Yes.
So, our next topic that we need to discuss, and we will have the adventure team kick this one off for us. Which is the best commuter motorcycle, adventure or dual sport?
Well, Your Honor, that clearly is going to go back to the adventure bike being the best commuter motorcycle. For example, the Ibex 450, the Himalayan 450, you get factory windscreens. You get a big old stator for extra lights and heated accessories, provisions for luggage. You have some passing power. All of these lend the adventure motorcycle to being a far superior commuter motorcycle.
Dual sport?
Well, Mark, you do have some excellent points there. I will agree with some of what you said, but can we get back to the root point of motorcycles, and that is an analog experience. Disconnecting from the world. We don't need any of those fancy gadgets, any luggage or anything like that. It's just more stuff that can go wrong. And what better way to experience being a commuter to work or wherever you want to go in your life behind a set of handlebars with the air in your face. You can smell the different changes in the scenery and feel those things and not be behind some sissy windshield.
That was a lot of talking without actually saying anything, James. I don't think you proved any sort of point with that. I'm sorry.
I see how you are. I see how this is going to
Gen- Ladies and gentlemen of the court, I appear to have frozen.
Iceman.
Despite being hard-lined with an Ethernet connection.
Mr. Schoonover, you are clearly correct. Fortunately, video is overrated.
It also looks like in your thumbnail you're praying to the dual sport gods, so it's kind of cool.
Your Honor, if I could redirect, I believe the CRF 300L 300L Rally is about as analog as it gets, even though it has one of those pesky windshields that you can both purchase an aftermarket shorter screen or just cut in your garage for free $99.
Wow, you bottom out your suspension on a pothole.
They sell suspension for them the same way they
It's
sell
the same
them for
cost as
Yeah,
the bike,
so
though.
there's a countless number of people I've watched try to turn a 300 or 300 Rally into more of an enduro weapon, and it always arrives back to you paid as much as a KTM 350 EXCF, but it weighs more and makes less power.
There's some arguments in there, but there are also KLX 230s hanging out in the dual sport community.
I do like the idea of a KLX 230 being a single cylinder, air cooled, very simple bike.
Agreed.
Ironically, how many of those enduro bike guys want to put a rally tower and a windscreen on them and make them into an adventure bike?
Yeah,
I've been guilty of that, Your Honor.
So, Mark, by your logic, if I slap a windscreen on a Trail 90, I've created an adventure bike?
That's actually by Drew's logic, which I'm forced to go along with for the pleasure of this listening audience and
All right.
episode. My personal opinion notwithstanding. So, yeah.
And for the audience out there, I just want to preface this by saying, yes, there are rumors floating out there that I do have an adventure bike myself. There are rumors that I try to turn my Gas 700 into a do-it-all rally bike, but that's not what's being discussed here tonight.
This isn't about you, it's about me.
That evidence is inadmissible, is what you're telling us?
Yes, yes. The photos are not real. That's AI.
It's hearsay. That's AI.
I would not possess any of those spy shots that you're referring to.
I'll strike that from the record.
That is, yes, much appreciated if that's the case.
So our next point of discussion, we will open up to the dual sport crew first. Which is the best moto camping motorcycle, adventure or dual sport?
I think I'll let my esteemed colleague, Mr. Schoonover, take this case here.
I've seen a KTM 500 EXC turned into pretty much anything you could imagine. And if you spend much time on ADV Rider, various other forums, there's guys that have some seriously well thought out, lightweight camping setups for those bikes. That's something that speaks to me pretty readily because I'm not the kind to take a ton of gear camping unless I'm going like with my wife. If it's just me, if I can't fit it on a small enduro, then I'm content to just leave it at home.
Well, I would back up his statement as well. A lot of times, some of the best moto camping places that you can get to are pretty challenging trail to get to that spot. So I want the lightest thing possible to get to that point. And I would kind of go back to that analog feeling of motorcycles to kind of stretch that as well into camping. I'm going camping to get away from all those electronics and scottles and all that good stuff. I don't need any of that. I just want to sleep under the stars. And I think that being a lightweight dual sport motorcycle gives you that opportunity to get out there in the more rugged areas with less stuff.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
trying.
I appreciate what you're saying there. Do you enjoy all the analogedness that you guys are bragging about during the truck and trailer ride to the trails or after you're done with camping under the stars next to your RV? Because the dual sport bike was such an uncomfortable monstrosity to ride to where you were actually going.
What kind
Well,
of dual
most of the
sport
time,
bikes
we're
are you
camping
riding?
in our area.
Keep it in your area. So camp in the next county.
No, we're talking 300-400 miles away. I have no problem with doing that.
Once again, I had to step out and powder my nose.
If you could tip the bailer
So-
to let you stay in the courtroom, we would all greatly appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I'm trying to do what I can, you know. But on the top of camping, I'm trying to go moto camping, not overland on a bike. You know.
Okay.
Can you expand on that statement, sir?
Yeah, so like the bulk of the trips that I've taken are typically like 2 to 3 day weekenders. Normally with the express goal of riding like some new terrain that I haven't been able to ride yet, or go explore an area more. But being in this state, like James has said, you can do some pretty serious exploration, stuff like that, and not end up that far from where you typically live. I know that sounds like a cop-out answer, but you know, when you're
Go ahead, Trent.
no, go ahead. I was going to take a jab at myself. When you're riding a clapped-out old KTM, it pays to stay close to home.
Heard
If I
that.
could redirect, Your Honor. Go ahead, Mr. Wright, please.
I would just bring up this point that I think maybe that both sides might be able to come to some mediation here and agree that this might be location specific.
Right. In the interest of defining what is the best motorcycle for the public, unfortunately, we have to understand that that's across the nation and in this particular broadcast, the world. Moreover, if I can redirect, Mr. Schooner opened up specifically by referencing Adventure Rider Forum to talk about adventure information when it comes to
Would you
camping.
prefer that I'd stated Thumper Talk?
It was an option. You made a choice, sir.
I did say various other forums, and it's Schoonover, by the way, not Schooner.
Oh, good.
I was
Lord,
wondering.
I
if
will have you held in contempt.
I deserve that comment.
I might have deserved that.
I will offer that when it comes to moto camping, the advantages that the adventure community brings, and I will specifically cite the Royal Enfield Himalayan, it comes from the factory with bike protection, factory luggage racks, the ability to load it down like a pack mule, or there's a word for the climbing assistants whose name I'm naturally forgetting for the interest of this episode, foolishly.
Sherpa.
Thank you very much.
Bam.
They also came factory with semi-welded foot pegs there for a little bit.
Excuse me, sir. That model is no longer available on factory dealership
For good
floors.
reason.
Oddly, a Sherpa was the name of a dual sport bike, but we shouldn't mention
There's
that.
currently a
Yeah,
dual sport
the
Sherpa, that's
Kawasaki Sherpa, which is
Yeah.
actually a bike I'd be interested in owning. But
I would too.
yeah, but I really have to give it to ADVs. I've never seen a two-wheeled machine be able to be made 5 feet wide with hard boxes, panniers on the sides. This is pretty cool.
Those are tire hangers, actually. Now that you mention
Tire
it. So,
hangers.
yeah, so you can have like 4 sets of tires hang off the bike. But that
Well,
leads
that's so
into
they
my
don't
next
fall
statement.
over all the way.
The gross vehicle weight, the actual payload capacity of the adventure bike is extremely high. So if you do want to pack the cast iron for eggs and bacon for breakfast, that's totally acceptable.
I, for one, do not want to pick that up out of the mud hole, though.
We
I
never
will
said
add-
that. Go ahead. Go ahead, Your Honor, please.
I will add a caveat to this question, since it seems to be the most hot topic that we've hit so far. Let me ask the question for a new rider who is new to moto camping off of a motorcycle. Which is the best choice, adventure or dual sport?
Is this
Who would you
somebody who has previous experience with camping in general?
Yes.
I'd say dual sport.
Yeah, I would
If
agree with that.
you're a new rider coming into it, I would not, in good conscience, recommend that you throw a leg over a really heavy bike and go out into the remote wilderness before you get your skills up.
One thing that I will give you adventure bike guys, Mark made this point earlier about the weight. Whenever you pack down a motorcycle with a lot of camping supplies, motor camping stuff that you've never done before, it changes that characteristic of the bike so much, and I couldn't in good conscience do that to a new rider. Personally, myself thought I was a good rider until we went to do the Tour de Coalfields route, and I strapped down my KTM 500 with a bunch of stuff on saddlebags, and it's an absolutely amazing difference between how it used to be and how it is now with that unsprung weight back there just flaming around.
I have moto camped off of a dual sport, and I definitely discovered that I like the cloverleaf strategy. Go to a place, set up a camp, get all the heavy crap off the bike, and then go ride. It may have been a 250L. Your mileage may vary on dual sports.
Well,
Concur.
when I went and did Coalfields on my KTM 350, I had a great time, but I pack light. So
Certainly, that is definitely the piece here. I actually meant to discuss that as well. In the adventure space, not a new person, but in the adventure space, when your pockets are deep enough, electronic suspension can now automatically adjust to adding more of your excess cast iron crap to the back of your adventure bike. But in the new space, I would definitely agree on light. And if we go light enough in the adventure space, they actually begin to be competitive with some of the heavier dual sports. But you can find stuff as light as 340 pounds ish in the adventure space now. So there are options for people who are on the newer side to get something lighter, but we'll say have a windshield and maybe a few creature comforts.
Are we talking like CF Moto 450 in that realm there?
CF Moto 450 is light, but I wouldn't call it as light as the rest of them. That would be 426 pounds. The IBEX 450 is actually pretty heavy, but the Vogue 300 Rally and the CRF 300 Rally are both 337, and I think it's actually, 331. They're like right next door to each other.
Okay, let's move on to the next hot topic. We will have the adventure team kick this one off. Which has the widest use case? Adventure bike or dual sport bike?
I'm going to make the argument for the adventure bike having the widest use case, basically from hare scramble to highway with the AJP PR7.
Objection, Your Honor. That is a
Overruled.
full-blown, purpose-built rally machine that is not street legal in some states. I think it should be an exception.
You have a reference for what state it's not street legal in?
California, Washington, Seattle, all the states that, let's be fair, none of us want to go visit anytime soon.
Is the Cove 450 rally street legal in California?
No. I don't think it's legal in a good bit of states. It's state-specific. Now, West Virginia, you're good to go in pretty much anything. You ride CR 500 if you want to.
If my partner Mark could look that up really quick while I make some points, and we'll confirm whether or not that's the truth.
Man, I'm not good at Google food, dude.
That's true. I brought a
You
hillbilly
know
as my
this
partner.
already.
If it pleases the court, Mark has sleeves, so it's important that we recognize that that's the case there.
That was an actual debate.
Well, we've already talked about the 300L Rally. There are many other lightweight bikes that are in that space, but ultimately, when you start looking at those lightweight ones I just mentioned, there's now a 25-pound difference between some of the lightest ADV bikes and some of the heaviest dual sport bikes. The 300L Rally is actually lighter than the DRZ 4S, which
Trip
lots of
over
us,
that
I
bar.
think, we would all think that that's a good dual sport. However, it's not exactly light, as it turns out.
I have an update for your really poorly planned battle, Drew, because
Go on.
the Cove 450 Rally is officially 50 state street legal in the United States,
what I thought.
including in California.
What about the
So the-
PR7?
Oh my God, hang on.
Most listeners would be probably tough to find a dealer that has a PR7. We are blessed here in Ohio that they do exist, and I saw a really sweet deal on one the other day for about $8,000.
That's
Suddenly
a heck
makes
of a
you,
deal.
yeah, you start rethinking that whole, do I buy a 701 Enduro and put a rally tower on it, or do I just buy the straight out PR7? The PR7, for people who do not know, for the 49 states that can have it, like you said, is a rally-specific chassis. It has the old BMW 650 engine, which is quite relaxed and pretty chill compared to the KTM 690. It also has like a navigation tablet on it, so it has like a tough book or whatever it is that's on it, and the actual owner's manual for the machine is in the tablet, so you can actually pull it up on the screen if you have to do maintenance to it. So like I said, you got cross-country interstate capability and hard enduro accolades with the Tenere A700, and then if you're really crazy about touring, then you have the ability to have basically like a sport bike and a touring bike all in one with something like a KTM 1390.
I can only find that they are not, the AJP PR7 is not federally certified as street legal in all 50 states from the factory. California and Oregon are the only confirmations I can get of states that it is not legal in, although there's probably others based on my scanning. The problem with the AJP is that it's been around for a hot minute now, and so it's hard to stay up to date on information about that sort of thing with that bike, in my opinion. So I could definitely be proven wrong.
I'll agree with some of your points there, Drew, that the PR7, I think, is the truest motorcycle that we have currently to a unicorn, something that is a true do-it-all motorcycle. As far as the navigation tablet, like you were saying earlier, that is a DMD2 by Thork Racing. I use their app.
That's what's in it now?
Yes.
Good information. I did not know that was the recent. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Thork Racing DMD2 tablet, which I use for all my navigation and is really nice.
Preach.
Trevor, hit us with the arguments. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I usurped your authority just now by accident.
You are good to go, sir. Trevor, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. You guys got to forgive me. I'm pretty sick, so I'm kind of fighting along here. Argument-wise, can you restate a synopsis of your case?
Ultimately, I believe that the adventure bike offers the widest use case because there are now adventure bikes in the lightweight segment that are hair scrambleable. At the same time, you could go coast to coast on the highway and not think twice about it.
Well, if you can hair scramble a big bike, then you can take a small bike on the highway.
Absolutely.
You know?
Good counterpoint.
But do you want to?
I'm dumb enough to do almost anything. Yeah.
Depends on how
you're probably less likely to break your leg taking a small bike on higher speed pavement than you are trying to hair scramble a big bike. And James can attest to this.
Yeah, I may have almost ripped my calf muscle off on my Africa Twin trying to think that I was hot stuff off-road.
It's pretty gnarly. He is not, in fact, Tony Bow.
I'm not Tony Bow. Never claimed to be. I would say that the esteemed people of the jury out there watching, in your heart, you need to decide what sucks more for you. Picking up a heavy bike when you're in some single track off-road, or legging it 1,000 miles on a bike that's not meant to do that. What would you rather do? And in my case, I would rather take the dual sport on the interstate as compared to take a big bike off-road.
Yeah,
and I have
for the same reason that I run pretty much dedicated dirt tires, like the Maxxis DOT, whatever. Everything, the way I gear my bike is towards off-road performance. So
I've always loved taking the big, heavy adventure bike off-road on single track and then watching dirt bike guys as you pop out of that gnarly, insane stuff, wondering what's wrong with you. And the more things that I can do to make people think what's wrong with that guy, the better.
I like to do that too, but don't tell the court, please.
That's AI. What my partner's saying is artificial intelligence generated nonsense.
I just like when he whispers sweet nothings into the microphone like that. It's hot.
It's strange. His accent changes when he does that. It's very weird.
Yeah. All right. On to the next topic of discussion. And we will have the dual sport crew start this one off for us. Which offers the most affordable purchase price?
Well, I would say, obviously it's very bike specific, but just if you took all prices, averaged them out, I would say that the dual sport world has to be extremely more cheaply than the adventure bike stuff. You have adventure bikes like the BMW 1300 that's up in the $30,000 range. We have bikes like the XR150L, which is sub $3,000. There's a lot of bikes in our segment that way. Now, granted, bikes that are the most highest performance are obviously going to be more expensive. You can find some deals though. My Gas 700, it's basically a Husky 701 or a KTM 690. You're looking at 12.5. Most of the top tier KTM or Husky off-road models are 12,500, give or take. I did get a good deal on my Gas 700. It was out the door for $8,000. So that's a lot of bike for that price. I think all things considered, the dual sport is extremely more cheap than the adventure bike stuff.
I would like to state for the consideration of the court that, you know, the Kawasaki KLX 300 is a pretty good intersection of capability and affordability, and I'd be lying if I would say that I wasn't aware that one of you among us was also a fan of a KLX 300.
Not it.
Hearsay.
What is your rebuttal, Adventure?
I have to concede, if raw dollar amount is the only qualifier, an XR150L is something like under $4,000. It's like $399 or something of that nature. If the only motorcycle you can buy is one that's $4,000 or less, you definitely can get into the dual sport space. For a few dollars more, for basically $5,500 to $6,000, that puts you in like Versys 300X range, if not others. The interesting thing about that is you can start looking at value based on weight, horsepower, and those types of things. And so, yes, like I said, the gate is there that if you can't get over $4,000, you can get into the dual sport space. But dollars per horsepower wise, you can actually get more juice with a 300X than you're going to get with like a XR150L or like a WR125, which are the other super cheap options. You're paying, it sounds silly, you're paying $276 per horsepower for a WR125, but you're paying $175 a horsepower to get a Versys 300X, which is actually a twin-cylinder engine. So it's a matter of value, even though, yes, if you have a limit on purchase power, you're correct. It is definitely cheap to get into a dual sport bike and at least have a bike versus have no bike.
Isn't it unfortunate in this world that we're currently in, too, where nothing's getting any cheaper? That bar just continues to rise and rise and rise, especially for the newer crowd. You know, it is hard for somebody that's in their late teens, early 20s to come up with even money for bikes that we like. $8,000 for my gas. Just put that out there for a second. That's a lot of money for somebody that's trying to mow yards or do whatever they can on the side to come up with that. And I really wish that manufacturers would see that for what it is, that you have so many people in this hobby that are leaving it or aging out, and the young crowd is having a tough time breaking into this space because of the price of new motorcycles.
For the benefit of all listening, I want to mention that a lot of people are dogging on that WR125R, and I actually am very happy that it's here because that really is a real dual sport, and it's very affordable, and it has, again, kept that bar low, that if people can't afford anything else, you get a full-size dual sport, and it's same thing. I think it's like $4,000 or something like that.
A little on the heavy side, but I'm glad to have a bike like that out there, period.
Yeah, it brings people in. That's a serious issue. So I don't speak for my colleagues, but I think we all object to this economy, Your Honor.
It's a problem.
It's interesting when they talk about the rise of the Chinese motorcycle and how affordable they are. And like, dude, 5 years ago, the Japanese bikes cost that or whatever. They're not. The Chinese bikes are coming up too. They're about priced at what Japanese bikes used to be. You know. It's craziness.
I agree with that, Mark. It is.
Thinking back to an early episode that James and I did about like the affordability of used bikes post 2020. You know, we were sitting there talking about if you got $2,000, here's what you can get, and now today it would be more like $3,000, $4,000. You know,
Yeah.
it's not getting any cheaper anytime soon. The price of used bikes did come down somewhat, but it's definitely not what it was.
I mean, that is to me the biggest point about like I said, WR whatever, and we can talk about that new Vogue 300 and stuff like that. Yeah, that at this stage, you can make an argument that you want a used KTM, but for the price of a 10-year-old KTM dual sport, you can now get a brand new WR125 XR150L. Like, they're super affordable, and it's brand new and never been, tainted. Go ahead, Your Honor.
All right. So next segment is offers, more affordable parts and accessories. Adventure Crew, let's hear you out.
I think it's going to be difficult for all of us to come to an agreement on this particular topic. I'm going to have to pull in comments from my colleagues and say the Chinese have invaded the adventure space, and because of that, you can now get some of the cheapest parts on the planet via Amazon and Alibaba delivered to your door, everything except the CF Moto Ibex 450. So it is extremely affordable now to get adventure bike parts and whatnot. In addition to that, again, Himalayan 450, the Indian market is all about affordability. I mean, for $5,800, you can now get a 450 adventure bike that's super easy to ride. And I looked it up today. You can get the rally seat for $120. I spent like $380 for an aftermarket seat for my Tenere 700.
Yeah,
So-
I'd like to piggyback off that point. Seat Concepts has gone mostly to full kits. You receive a seat that's already stapled to the pan. I talked them into just doing a seat foam kit for my KTM. It came with a low. I wanted a standard because I don't have a 30-inch inseam. Quite expensive. Definitely more expensive than the Himalayan, for instance. I wish that we had more affordable aftermarket seat options out there.
The Himalayan also engine bars. It's $130 for engine bars from Royal Enfield. Like, I'm a Tusk guy. Like, again, Chinese parts. I like
Same.
Tusk parts from Rocky Mountain, but that's not a good argument because the dual sport space has every bit of those as much as the adventure space does. But we love them. But the fact that Royal Enfield Himalayan factory parts are coming in cheaper than Tusk, wow, that's a shot across the bow.
And buying it direct from manufacturer, there's a pretty good chance of it fitting up. I'm sure everyone here has purchased some too good to be true aftermarket components and had to do some custom machining in order to get them to fit.
That is a feature of Chinese parts, not a bug.
Nothing like when you buy non-matching crash bars to a non-matching skid plate to a non-matching center stand, only to realize none of this crap is going to work with itself.
Mark, I would agree with your point, even though we're not supposed to be agreeing a whole lot here.
That's all right. We can find common ground, sir.
My Africa Twin has a Black Dog CycleWorks skid plate, an SW Motec set of crash bars, and a factory Honda center stand. And I wanted a set of upper crash bars. Well, SW Motec didn't make anymore, but Nice CNC did, and they looked exactly like SW Motec. Guess what didn't fit at all? Did not fit. Whatever. I'd have been better off to make my own out of some exhaust tubing and bend it up myself.
Dang. Man, also, you can't talk about weight anymore when you have a Black Dog CycleWorks skid plate mounted to your adventure bike. That skid plate alone is half the weight of a KLX 300.
But it's a lot cheaper than an oil pan, my friend. A lot cheaper than an oil pan.
True that.
Far be it for me to disagree with my colleague, but at least the Black Dog skid plate is bomb-proof.
Allegedly.
Yeah. James needs it. I don't know if you guys have ever watched him ride.
I don't have spy photos.
But, yeah, as somebody, big shout out to Nice CNC. As somebody that's got a bunch of aftermarket parts of foreign origin on a bike, they really started to even the playing field.
Well, I think we can also say that, it depends on what you're buying, obviously. If you're buying wheel bearings, I'll just put this out there. I literally bought a set of all balls rear wheel bearings for the Africa Twin 2 days ago. It was $46.99 shipped through Rocky Mountain. I had to buy that same set for the gas, and it was $34.99, I believe, shipped. So a little cheaper. Now, granted, the Africa Twin does have 3 wheel bearings. There's 2 in each side of the hub and 1 in the cush drive sprocket itself. So there is something to consider there. Sometimes with these adventure bikes, you have a little bit more moving parts. I would say, like, when it comes to fairings and body work, if you drop your big bike and you bust that big fairing up around the windshield, I don't want to know what it would cost to replace the one on, say, my Africa Twin, but I can buy a front fender and a number plate for the gas for probably a fraction of the cost of what it's going to be to replace that big fairing on the Africa Twin.
If you can scrape up $120 worth of quarters from under your couch cushions in the seat in your truck, you can get a UFO or a Sherby's plastic kit for a KTM. Graphics sold separately. Graphics are what make it go fast. I understand that.
That's the expensive part.
As somebody who rode a lot of Japanese bikes and then came over to KTM, I was really surprised at how affordable the OEM parts on a KTM were and readily available. I figured that they would be exorbitantly expensive for things like wheel bearings, valve shims, consumables, you name it. And that really hasn't been the case.
All right, let's move on to the next. So, Dual Sport Crew, we'll let you start on this one. And I know James has already kind of started down this rabbit hole, I would say. Which has the best ease of maintenance?
Like I said earlier, it's very bike specific. Let's just agree to disagree on that. You are going to do maintenance a lot more often on a dual sport than you are on an adventure bike. That is a
especially
simple fact
high compression
that the court can agree with. But when it comes time to do that maintenance, I think on a dual sport, everything is always so much easier to get to and so much easier to work on. Take my Africa Twin. There is, I believe, 33 or 34 plastic push pins that hold the entire front fairing together that you have to take out. They like to snap most of the time. Once you get that off, then you have to unhook the fuel pump wiring and the gas tank itself, lift it up just enough to completely unhook the wiring harness that runs up to the front of the motorcycle to remove the tank just to get to the air box. And you're not done yet. Once you get to that air box, there's 8 screws that hold it together. It's a 2-piece design to change a filter that's this big. My Gas 700, I can pull one loop on the seat, remove it, and remove the air box within 30 seconds. So, yes, you're going to maintain your dual sport twice as much as you are your adventure bike, but it's a hell of a lot easier when you do so.
They do seem to typically be easier to work on than an adventure bike. You spend a lot less time getting into where you need to be.
And it's bike specific. I've seen some adventure bikes that are easy to work on. I'll give you guys that.
I think Mark's about to hit people with it.
And I've seen some dual sports that suck to work on.
That's
Talking
true.
about the ease of an air filter change on a KTM, for instance, versus like my Kawasaki KLX 250. You got to take the seat off. If you got a rear rack like I do, it's a big pain because you're getting stuff out of alignment and everything. It's far from toolless. You're busting out the Allen keys, and it's doable. I mean, it's not horrible. It doesn't take forever, but it's kind of a pain. So not all dual sports are easy to work on for basic maintenance.
I think there's easy bikes and there's hard bikes to work on, just like James started off saying. I mean, what you're explaining though with all the plastic bits popping off and everything, man, that seems like a Honda problem, because my Husqvarna doesn't have that going on at all, man. My 901 Expedition, oh God, dude, to change the air filter, I've got to take the seat off. Oh, that's it. Yeah, I just have to take the seat off. That's it. Pull the air filter out, shake it out. There you go. Away you go. I have yet to do a valve adjustment, so the jury's out on that one. But generally what I've found is that when that 20,000 mile interval comes along, you have to take the tank off, and then everything's pretty accessible. Yeah, some bikes suck. Triumph, I hated pulling the plastic, always felt like it was going to break apart and explode in my hands. KTM plastics, the Husqvarna plastics, they seem to be a lot more flexible. I mean, on the 901, when I did strip it down to do some work on it, I undid 4 screws. I think it was 4 screws. And then there were some plastic fittings that just popped out just like any old dirt bike did. The side fairings underneath the seat, they pop off. They come off with no tools whatsoever. So I think that has been what adventure bikes generally are difficult, a lot of Tupperware to take off, but I think that's actually changing with some of these more modern adventure bikes, in my opinion. And then, of course, you've got bikes like the BMW. Oh, I got to do a valve adjustment. Well, I'll just pop off these, cylinder head covers that are just sticking out there, waiting to get hit by rocks. Right? Maybe the rock takes it off for you. You can do it trail side while you wait for the helicopter. I don't know.
That's the spirit.
Yeah, man. You got to get in there and get her done, right, Trevor?
Yeah.
Or as Drew calls you, Mr. Scoover.
Shout out Dave Porter. Shout out Dave Porter if you're listening with his Beamer.
In addition to that, there's also that whole shaft drive discussion, right? Like if you've got 10,000, 20,000, I don't know what the BMW is, but it's 10,000 intervals on the Tiger 1200. So you don't have to do valves for, I don't know, every 20 or whatever it is, and you have shaft drive. Mm-hmm. So you're changing oil at 10,000 miles and ideally never touching any of those plastics. So it's a matter of use case, right?
Yep,
I would say
absolutely, man.
Some of these manufacturers of these adventure bikes, and some of the dual sports to an extent are guilty of it as well, they don't want you working on your own stuff. They want you to bring it back to the dealership and make more money to service it. I don't know if this new Desert X is this way, but the previous Ducati Desert X, I was watching Ryan Fortnine's video on it, and I can't remember what it was. It was like the chain adjustment,
tension,
something
tension.
something
They
super
don't actually
simple.
don't actually give you a figure in the manual for your chain tension. They instruct you to take it to a dealer.
Yeah.
Everybody
Part
knows
of their
it's 3
strategy.
fingers off the swing arm, right? Easy, but
I saw what you did there. Yeah, that is pretty crazy with Ducati not telling you the chain tension, and that's a machinery problem across the board. They're trying to pass laws about this right now. I just watched, and I can't remember her name now, but she's literally a legislator trying to get us the rights to work on the machines that we actually already own. I mean, I work in landscaping, and the whole thing with John Deere not letting farmers work on their machines is ginormous.
I was going to mention that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's unfortunately that's what they're trying to do to us. It's not the right path, and motorcycle manufacturers need to take note that most of us, at least up until maybe recently, I don't know about you guys, but dude, I like working on my motorcycle. I mean, I don't like working on it when it's on the middle of the road or something, but when I'm at home, that's therapy. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
So
yeah, turning wrenches is part of the hobby, in my opinion.
for sure, dude. I mean, my Instagram is ride, wrench, repeat. I mean, it's right there in the name. You know
That's
what I
you?
mean? So that's me, buddy.
I should make one for my KTM called Wrench, Wrench, Repeat.
And wrench some more.
Wrench, wrench, repeat, wrench.
Kick till Monday, wrench till Sunday.
Keep
Kentucky
10
trash
mechanics.
machine.
Yep.
Yeah, keep 3 mechanics.
You know any of those?
There's a lot of
Good,
them.
good
right.
times.
My mother, I'm sure, is watching and is the most avid KTM hater I've ever met in my life, and I'm pretty sure she ripped me out of the wheel the day I came home with my 500.
Oh.
So I heard that my entire life growing up.
My mom thinks KTM is made by Harley, so your mom sounds pretty cool.
She is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie.
Hell yeah. Here's to James's mom.
Yeah, cheers to moms.
Cheers.
All right, so the next, which is best, is for the adventure crew to answer first. Which segment offers the lowest cost of ownership?
This tags along very closely with the previous conversation, and I recognize that the CRF 300L Rally has a sister in the dual sports space that makes it even more muddy about this conversation. But there are others in that space. But if you can get some of the really long interval, like bikes that they've got long service intervals, but they're actually relatively affordable, unquestionably there are expensive ones with long intervals, and the Ducati's on that list. They're actually really long now, but a Ducati costs a lot of money. But the L Rally is, you got to buy a quart and a half of oil, which you can get for $30 off Rocky Mountain, and the thing gets like 70 miles to the gallon, and you only have to change the oil every 8,000 miles on that bike, valves every like 16,000 miles. You get to buy, especially with, and it's not just the L, but like we start talking about the not the Himalayan 450, excuse me, the CF Moto and some of these other ones, they're running basically like dirt bike tire sizes now. So there's several of the dual sports that are small enough that you can buy regular 21 and then a skinny 18, like a 120 width 18, which is super affordable. Another thing, because dual sports that are popular these days have the high compression. A lot of the adventure bikes are low compression, and you don't end up spending as much money on the desmogging stuff to fix a lot of the flame out issues and whatnot. So if you're okay with not spending thousands and thousands of dollars on anodized orange and red stuff for your adventure bike, you can save a lot of money by buying a lightweight adventure bike.
Drew, my credit card statement to Rottweiler was private information. You should not have seen that.
Yeah, that's not admissible in this court of law.
I love how nobody can afford to actually pay cash to Rottweiler. Everybody has to finance it.
They are now expecting, or what's the name of that in kind or whatever it is that
You lost me, Drew. I apologize.
Make 6
Drew,
payments
are you
available.
talking about the payment
Oh, yeah.
service like
Affirm.
Klarna?
Yeah, Firm. That's what it
Firm.
is.
I had to take out a Western Sky loan for my stuff at 194% interest to buy all that stuff.
You guys aren't using Klarna to finance a Chipotle burrito?
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Clearly, Chipotle and Rottweiler are not sponsoring any of the 3 of our shows anytime soon.
Well, just as a rebuttal to that, it is very bike specific, especially in our segment. If you're the higher strung, high performance dirt bikes with a plate like we like to ride, yes, that cost of ownership is going to be fairly high. Like I said, I spent just to desmog the 700, I'd say close to $2,000 in parts and accessories to do that. So yeah, your cost of ownership is extremely high with that. More frequent valve clearance checks. I don't think I've checked the valves on the Africa Twin. I'm going to go until it blows up or it starts sounding like a gold wing with the exhaust off of it, and probably just get another one.
That is the next owner's problem.
That is the next owner's problem. Correct, Trevor. But I would say on the lower end of that spectrum, our good buddy Tom King has a DR650 with over 100,000 miles, and he has put very little money into anything on that bike. So if you got one of the Japanese dual sports, I think you're on par with some of these more or less frequent adventure bikes as far as maintenance and cost is concerned. But if you are a high-strung, high-bred racehorse like we like to ride, yes, that maintenance cost is going to be higher. Trevor, how much money have you spent on your TW200 in your ownership of it?
I was actually going to bring those bikes up about how it's almost like a little piece of farm equipment. It's almost like a lawnmower. It's like, when's the last time you worried about doing a valve check on a Briggs & Stratton? Like, it sounds fine, just ride it. Small single-cylinder air-cooled bikes and even the larger single-cylinder air-cooled bikes that are lower compression, like the DR650 James is talking about, which I understand is also oil-cooled. Anyway, yeah, really low total cost of ownership. You know, that's one of the bikes I wouldn't shy away from running like a higher grade diesel oil in. A lot of guys like Rotella, stuff like that. I'm not going to throw it my KTM personally, but I could see, like, if you're trying to cut your operating costs down on a bike you put a lot of miles on, that would make sense. But the other thing that I'd like to bring up is any bike has extremely cheap, affordable maintenance if you simply do not maintain it, which is an approach that I've seen a lot of people take.
That's one way to go about it, for sure. Yeah, you're right.
You know, I've seen some guys with buy KTMs and they're ragged out within like 40 hours.
I'm going to agree with my colleague across the aisle, but from a very different perspective.
Ooh, some bipartisanship. I like it.
Yeah.
I received a text message a long time ago as I was hem-hawing about doing valves on adventure bikes because I was doing it twice a season on my Scrambler at one point. And he actually said to me, he's like, think about this for a minute. If you need to adjust your valves, then your valves are beating into the head, and soon you're going to have to fix the head anyway. So eventually, when you actually need to adjust the valves, you'll know because the bike won't be starting and won't be running correctly, at which point you'll just rebuild the head. So don't waste the time opening up the top of your engine and checking the valves because the bike's just going to tell you. I don't follow that advice, but it's 100% cheaper, according to what Trevor said just now.
Yes. I've met several people with that school of thought. Also know of a guy that ignored the timing chain noise on his DR650 and it snapped in half like way out in the middle of nowhere.
So the bike was lighter to push back.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was lighter without a rider on it.
I'm making lists of people that I will not buy a used bike from and will not ride with into the woods right now.
It was a comment to ease of maintenance, but I was going to mention that if you're not riding in the sand and you're on an adventure bike, staying out of the dust, paper air filters are one and done, and they last for tens of thousands of miles. So that's a perk to the adventure space. However, that's a liability depending on where you're taking your preferred Rottweiler machine.
I will say about paper air filters, though, if you're in a lot of water crossings, they swell up and shut the bike off before they allow water to get in.
A selling point that I will keep in mind.
Wow, James, I really could have used one of those.
Yeah, you could on Kingsville. What's wrong with you?
Actually, on several different occasions.
I just pulled a paper filter out of my Norden and put a foam filter kit in there, so no comment. It was not Rottweiler, FYI.
I mean, a little bit of water in a motor is healthy for it, right? You're steam cleaning it. You're trying to get some of the carbon off the valves and whatnot. You know, water's probably more compressible than people let on.
Can I object to propaganda? Is that a thing?
He might as well drop leaflets from airplanes over the country, dude.
Trevor's got a water-powered motorcycle that he's not telling anybody about because he doesn't want assassinated.
Clear.
He's not suicidal.
You don't pick up the nickname of Aquaman by being scared of some water holes. You know, James mentioned Kingsville. I turned my KTM into a U-boat, sucked some water into the cylinder. So, Mark, put me on the list of, like, don't buy a used bike from me.
Trevor, you were on that list 10 minutes ago, bro.
All right. I'm glad.
If any of the listeners in the jury have not figured out by now, maybe they should or should not buy used bikes from anyone on this panel, please leave comments on Spotify.
News always safer. So
yeah, Mark's nice of his stuff. Go ahead.
Let's move on to our second segment. This one we are calling Choose Your Weapon. You are going to select a motorcycle from your segment to attack the following challenges, and I want you to defend your choice. So we'll let the Dual Sport crew go first, and we're going to ask you about Deals Gap US 129 over 2 days. Choose your weapon.
Well, let me just say, first and foremost, in my best Southern lawyer voice, I feel these categories are a little bit slighted towards the adventure bike guys. I see a couple categories that we're going to be better on the dual sport side, but what is this? This is some kangaroo court shenanigery. It's outrageous, it's egregious, it will not stand, and I am just beside myself. Haven't said that. Deals Gap, 2-day ride. Me and Trevor have decided to take the venerable Honda XR650L.
Good one. That's a good one. Do you have anything to add, Trevor?
Well, James wouldn't let me pick the TW200 with a little bicycle bell on it, so I guess we'll have to go with his selection.
We're hiring other partners over here at Adventure Incorporated, so you come on over, Trevor. We'll find out if Yamaha will put a windshield on that bike for you.
I almost did put a small fairing on it many years ago. There was a guy on Thumper Talk, I think, because I'm not allowed to mention ADV Rider anymore. But he was selling like small fairings for the thing. I didn't buy one. Anyway.
You need a Batwing fairing from a Harley on that Joker with some speakers, dude, and a cup holder.
Who's the guy that we found on Instagram, Trevor, that kept putting those on like DRZ 400s and it didn't look terrible?
Oh, I can't remember the guy's
cool.
name.
Rocked it. He painted it yellow. I was like, I'd love that.
He even found a way to
bike.
Yeah, he found a way to like blend it in with the bark busters, and the lines flowed really good. And
it wasn't bad.
I'm definitely Googling that after this.
If I find it, Mark, I'll send it to you because
Please do.
It's awesome. No, but you know, Deals Gap, that's a heck of a fun road. It doesn't matter what kind of bike you're on, as long as you got something that can kind of keep up with traffic. And we picked the XR650L just because it's probably going to be the least terrible on that much highway.
Point. Adventure Crew, what you got for your weapon?
It is evident that taste is overlapping. I almost picked a different bike, but I wanted a different one for the next question. So I'm going to say AJP PR7 for the torque and the dual sport-ish type behavior, because on a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, assuming that there are no BMW 1200 RTs that are painted black and blue with flashy lights on them, you can squirt out of the corners with a 650 thumper with a ton of torque. Obviously, I didn't get a chance to put Supermoto wheels on it, but that's what I would do if there weren't rules.
Nice. Mark, anything to add?
Well, I personally think you guys are going about the 129 area all wrong. My personal choice was a Ducati Multistrada, because that thing is going to whip it through some of those curves, and I've never seen a cop on the Dragon. I think that's that's overstated. The mirrors on the Multistrada are really small. The cops are way back there, and plus you're gonna look awesome when you pull up to the tail of the Dragon store and next to the Tree of Shame and have a beer. So that's where my mind was.
The most important thing is don't end up on the Killjoy photo website, right?
Not for the right reasons, anyway.
My colleague across the aisle also has a pronunciation problem, as it turns out. It's the Killboy website.
Killboy, sorry.
None of us can speak properly. What a shock.
It's a southern stuff. It's okay.
Yep.
All right, so our next area where you need to choose a weapon is a West Virginia hare scramble for 2 hours, and we're going to let the Adventure Crew go first.
I almost chose this for the previous one. I want the Cove 450 Rally to go to a hare scramble. Probably going to have to get my hacksaw out and knock that windshield down a little bit, but I think that one's the most prepared. I'm probably not going to put all, 7 gallons of gas or whatever it is in it. I think 2 will be sufficient for 2 hours, hopefully, maybe 3. But yeah, that's definitely my weapon of choice. Probably the most off-roady of all of these. Maybe the PR7's better, but the Cove suspension is it's ready to rumble. The one I've been on, it is impressively stiff from the factory, so it's ready to ride hard.
Just don't hacksaw that windshield down too far, or it will become a dual sport bike, Drew.
Yes, that is correct. It is the windscreen that makes the ADV.
Yep. Everybody knows that.
Mark, anything else you want to add?
No, this is one of the few times that Drew and I actually agreed 110%. I chose the exact same bike. I never thought about hacksawing the windscreen down, though, because I like living life on the edge. But, yep, it's the perfect choice.
Everyone wants a rally tower until they get their helmet rearranged.
Yeah, or their neck.
There was a couple years ago.
Paging Michael Heron from the 304.
I was going to say a couple years ago at the Detour. Yep. He ate it.
It's not good.
Took a big wet bite out of the top of that windscreen.
Ooh.
I was hit in the face by the Himalayan 450 tall screen. I do not recommend.
It didn't like you drooling all over it.
Clearly that was the case.
All right, Tallboys, your home field advantage here. What is your selection for a hare scramble in West Virginia?
Give it to the fine people of the court, James.
Well, I think we've kind of got a distinct advantage, at least in this category. So pick your flavor of Bajaj 350. Any of those are the single lightest bike that you can think of in any of this dual sport segment that's going to be competitive on a hare scramble track. It has plenty of power to pull anybody around, great suspension, and there's a good chance you're going to do very well at a 2-hour hare scramble race on a 350 KTM Husky gas. That is our pick. And
the EXCs come factory with an aux fan, unlike some of the dirt-only models.
Your Honor, you're probably going to have these gentlemen explain to the jury what Bajaj is, because I'm not entirely sure everybody knows yet, as silly as that may sound.
Let's hear it, buddy.
All right, so Bajaj is now the main stakeholder in KTM, Husqvarna, and Gas. And that was an acquisition that took place over the last couple years. KTM was having some issues, talking about looming bankruptcies, things of that nature. So time will tell what corners are being cut, especially with the enduro models that have, for most of the time I've been alive, been behind like the designed and built in Austria banner. The price still reflects designed and built in Austria, but I don't know that the parts are actually, fall under that same category.
They just come with curry now.
Spicy.
It is the curry scented worry. Bajaj 350.
Boy.
So
there will come a time where they are not manufactured in Austria anymore. Mr. Bajaj has said as much. So
yes.
Yeah, those days are numbered. Sadly.
No surprise there. But
No.
Is an owner of a 21 KTM 350. James is spot on. They really are like a small dirt bike with a license plate. So
I'm hopeful that they go. So go ahead, Trevor.
No, I was just going to say lightweight, good ergonomics, definitely well tailored for hair scramble type terrain, which is coincidentally the bulk of what we end up riding.
Off topic, Your Honor, but I'm hopeful they'll fix the fueling issues with the KTM 390 Adventure, and we can spice up this hair scrambling conversation with something else orange in the adventure space.
Well, you're not going to spice it up with ground clearance.
No.
I think if it had more low-end grunt, it would really be competitive in that segment. But the one that Trevor and I actually got to throw a leg over one there a while back, and then it just you can tell it's not Austrian made anymore. It's very Indian, very I say cheap. But yeah, that low end is just not there. It likes to be screamed and revved like a 390 Duke street bike does. But I don't know how well that translates into off-road hair scramble style terrain.
The cable clutch also left a bit to be desired.
I find that interesting considering how good the cable clutch is on that CRF 300L that I continue to reference over and over and over again. So that's really disappointing to hear something like that as a guy who likes cable clutch.
I also like a cable clutch, but I'm not in love with it on the 901 yet. I hope I come around, but so far, meh.
Does Camel make a part for that?
They make a little, easier clutch pull lever thing. Maybe I'll throw it in a shopping cart someday.
$50. This episode is not sponsored by Camel, but Camel is now available in the United States, and I have one of those. You should get one.
Yeah, unfortunately, he wants a nice $80 for that part now. But, yeah, I hear you. I'll pick one up sometime.
I'm pretty spoiled with the hydraulic clutch now, just being used to it as long as we have, and I'll never get used to that feeling when I get off of it and get on the Africa Twin. I'm like, ugh. It's not bad, but there's definitely a big difference there.
I find that my KTM hydraulic clutches, they lose their flexibility over time. They become stiff, and for whatever reason, I can never rescue them after that. It's probably me.
It's not. No, it's not. The 1090 was so stiff, dude. You remember riding my 1090? That clutch pull sucked. I've had 950 clutches re-sleeved at the Master. I mean, they all end up. I had to ride, single track Trail 81 or whatever in Teleco Plains with no clutch because the damn thing started leaking. Yeah.
I don't get it. When they're new, they're like butter. But
I haven't had any issues out of mine. You guys got me worried now.
I had that same issue, and I changed the slave cylinder first, and that kind of helped a little bit, but didn't remedy it completely. I changed the clutch line, and that right back to being like brand new again. That was my problem.
Interesting.
That was delaminating inside, or what was going on.
Interesting.
With the OEM, James, or aftermarket?
With OEM, Mark. No nice CNC on that one. Although I did have some nice CNC parts on that bike.
This court is out of order, Your Honor, but I think the jury's enjoying it.
Just don't hold us all in contempt, man.
So far, so good.
As long as you hold me.
All right, let's move on to the next one then. We're going to have the Dual Sport crew choose their weapon of choice for a Saddle Sore 1000. That would be 1,000 miles in 24 hours or less.
350 EXC.
Honda Super Cub 125.
150L. That's what we were thinking.
No, 150L.
I mean, you're splitting hairs, guys.
I'm over here going, can that thing actually finish 24 hours?
No, I don't
The
think
question is, can you finish 24 hours on it?
It's been done.
Are your cheeks up to the task?
At my advanced age, no.
It's been done on a monkey, so I think it's doable, dual sport guys.
We're talking about motorcycles, Drew, not zoo animals.
We talked about this, and you know, obviously it's the pick what's going to be least horrible, because there's no good choice here, honestly, when it comes to our segment. So we're just going to go stick with the thing that's inevitable, like taxes and dying, and that's the DR650. We feel that would be the most comfortable single-cylinder Japanese 650 to try to knock that out. You know, I kind of went back and forth and thought maybe the 690, 701, something in there, but I've been on that bike for 500 miles during these 24-hour rallies, and if I had to ride that long on the highway, the vibes would just kill it for me. And the DRs is pretty tame when it comes to that, so I think it's the best choice for us in this segment.
That's a
Very
solid
nice.
call.
Yeah. Adventure Crew, where are you at?
Well, I don't think that anybody can argue with the mighty BMW R1300 GSA. I mean, it's literally a car minus two wheels. How do you get better than that? Dude, in bonus points, if you throw a Russell Daylong seat on that thing, you could go 8,000 miles between fill-ups on a fuel tank, and it's more comfortable than than the chair I'm sitting in right now at my desk. So, I mean, enough said as far as I'm concerned, right? Oh, by the way, actually, that's not enough said. I take it back. You see the guys that put like the little mini keg of fuel on the back seats of these things? I mean, they're literally going across coast to coast without ever stopping.
Like a cannonball run on a bike.
100%.
Nice.
Yeah, dude.
I would like to state, objection, Your Honor, I think Starbucks is overrated.
It's terribly overrated. And that's a cheap shot, though, Trevor. You can do better than that, man.
A cheap shot is all I can afford. Thank you.
They are dual sport people. We have to give our colleagues across the aisle some credit.
Oh, man. Nope, we can't give into that.
Their boots and flannels are far more fashionable than this.
Hey, now, you're one to talk, Mr. Cheapskate. I've heard some stories there as well.
Drew is literally the cheapest person I know, so yeah.
I got Alpine Stars that squeak with more authority than you talk with.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you over the background noise. Are you walking around back there?
I am actually. I'm on a treadmill. So I can fit my flannel.
Yeah, but not a treadmill, not a Peloton bicycle. That's too expensive. A treadmill.
You get a Peloton with a seat concepts on it.
Yeah, and a Starbucks across the counter so you can pedal towards it.
I like it.
Yeah, man, 100%.
All right.
That's my answer, and I'm sticking to it.
I have order in my court, boys. All right, so let's do this again with 1,000 miles, but this time we're going to stretch it over 7 days, and we're going to ride the MABDR. So Adventure Crew, give me your weapon of choice.
Dude, there's no better option than the bike I'm looking at in my shop right now, the mighty Norden 901 Expedition, baby. That bike can do everything, including some hard off-road, the highway it's going to take to get to the start of the Mabder, and all the roads in between. It's got a decent fuel range. It's got tubeless wheels, and it looks badass. I mean, what else do you want, you know? That's my story.
Anything to add?
My colleague and I do double blind on this, ironically. So I sent him the questions and asked him for his opinion, and this is yet another situation where both of us arrived at the exact same answer for basically the same reasons. That
it literally almost never happens.
It's the middle. Yeah, that's true. It's the middle weight to me that hits all the right boxes, has the cruise control and some of the creature comforts that I'm like, yeah, I would do that over the T7.
All right, Dual Sport Crew, where are you at with this one?
That's a solid choice. I think that if I was on your guys' side of the aisle, I'd probably pick the same bike. We are in agreement with, again, pick your flavor, but the 690, 700, 701. And the reason why we picked that is from kind of personal experience. You know, doing these 24-hour rallies, you're getting into that same type of mileage almost. And the MABDR is one of the best kind of just all-purpose mix of things. In our side of the thing with the dual sports, I think that that platform is the closest we have to a true unicorn motorcycle. So we would pick that for the MABDR, and I think that also allows us to not skip out on something like the BDRX and do some more challenging stuff along the way. It's easily set up to do multi-day travel. You know, if you take my 700, for example, you know, seat concept seat, a little fairing, nice navigation tablet, plenty of saddlebags and stuff to carry all your stuff. And I just think it's not great at anything, but it's good at most everything. And I think that's what you need on something like that.
A fairing, you say? Perhaps a windscreen?
That's what I was going to say. Thank you, Trevor. I appreciate the assist, man.
I can't help that Adventure Spec makes that for that bike. And it's not a windscreen, actually. It's a piece of plastic. Does that count?
It's technically mounted to the bars, not the fairing. Maybe we should say that's the differentiation.
That's like the definition between like a street glide and a road glide. I mean, you know, splitting hairs here.
One of them is for bars and one of them is for cross-country riding.
Yep.
Anything else to add, Trevor?
No, I think we're in pretty solid agreement on that one. I think that's a great platform for the task at hand.
I want to add to my colleagues, it's a shame that that manufacturer decided to stop making the Husqvarna 701 LR.
Yeah, long range would have been the ticket right there for that.
Yes.
Yep. Agreed.
All right, so our next choose your weapon location would be the Blue Ridge Parkway, which is 460 miles over 3 days. So dual sport crew, let's hear your answer first.
I do have a question about the rules when it comes to this part. Are we allowed to pick the same bike twice?
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't see why not.
Then I think for the Blue Ridge Parkway, we're also going to pick the DR650 here in this case. Again, it's kind of the same thing with the 1,000 mile. I just think it gives you the best ability for our segment to crush out some highway miles and not feel like you're going to die. Trevor, I remember there was a gentleman that came to the detour and he had some kind of like Recaro seat that looked like a lazy boy sofa. This thing stuck out about 6.5 inches on each side. So whatever that seat is, give me that, put it on the DR, and we'll do all the road stuff.
It was probably the most creative seat I've ever seen on a dual sport.
It wasn't a Russell Daylong?
I'm not sure what it was. It could have been Lazy Boy for all I know.
It may have been a Russell Daylong.
Serta?
I think it had velour buttons and stuff in it as well. It was very fancy.
It was a sleep number seat.
Yeah,
dude,
it was adjustable.
That seat with like diamond upholstery, and one of those Harley fairings, like Batwing fairings or whatever.
Yeah, man.
Now you're talking.
You guys have to be careful, though, because I think in North Carolina, it's the law that you're only allowed to put sheepskin on a DR650. I think that's the case.
That's okay. In West Virginia, it's a requirement for a KLR 650 to run a milk crate. And
That's a nationwide requirement, dude.
The more cracked and sun-faded and the fewer zip ties that it's held on the bike with, the more cool points that you get.
But you're not allowed to buy a milk crate for a KLR. It has to be found behind a dumpster at some 7-Eleven station somewhere.
Yeah,
that's a rule.
If you're in Preston County, it's definitely have to be stolen from United Dairy.
West by God, Virginia. I hold my hand up and salute.
That's right, buddy.
All right, Adventure Crew, where are you at with the BRP?
Blue Ridge Parkway, I know it well, and I think there's only one adventure bike that comes to mind in terms of overall enjoyment of the BRP, and that is going to be a surprise choice for me in the Harley-Davidson Pan America. Right? So, to me, you're going to get that road is Americana, in my opinion. So you're getting that heritage feel by having a Harley-Davidson, yet you're not on a, quote, real Harley-Davidson, so there's that advantage. You know, you're going to get some good comfort. You're going to get some decent range on that bike. And when you pass the Harley guys coming the opposite way, it's always fun to see if they're going to actually wave to you or not. when you're on a Pan America. So that is my choice for the Blue Ridge Parkway.
Sometimes if you're on a dual sport, they wave at you with one finger.
That is true. I always love doing the wave where it's way up, like hey guys, hey, what's up guys? And usually by the 23rd guy in line, they are not waving at me anymore.
You ever
I think the lead rider warned them.
Just, stand up and take your clutch hand off and wave at them and flex, because most of them are duck waddling, at stoplights and all that. Balance is not a Harley rider's strong suit. Anyway.
There are no cruiser fans left in the...
Or BMW fans. We lost all
them.
Yeah,
I was going to say, we got rid of BMW, we got rid of Harley. Let's piss off KTM next. Go for it.
Well, before we do that, let's let Drew give us his 2 cents here.
Far be it for me to disagree with my colleague. It's a good choice. I probably would have went with the Africa Twin Adventure Sport personally. That's probably more my flavor of what I would do the Blue Ridge Parkway on, because I think you can now get that with a 19-inch front wheel, if I remember correctly. And I love the beautiful song that the Africa Twin sings. So, yeah, that'd probably be my mojo there. But Pan America's a solid choice.
Something about the rains down in Africa. That song?
Dude, I literally sing that while we're doing these 24-hour rallies most of the time.
It's a great song.
Oh, yeah. Toto will get you through some tough times.
Word.
All right. So, let's see. Our next Choose Your Weapon will be 1,000 miles of the Kentucky Adventure Tour in 5 days. And we are going to let the adventure crew go first on this one.
Guess which one of us is going to talk about this?
I've never been to that state. I don't know anything about it. I definitely don't know the host of the, or not the host, the creator of the Kentucky Adventure Tour. So you should definitely go listen to a recent episode of Tallboys and Trackmasters, because that was an excellent episode with Jeff Stess. So shout out to those guys and Jeff for being on the show. I'm going to go with the CRF 300 Rally. I think that if you're going to do the Kentucky Adventure Tour, you want the lightest adventure bike that you can get your hands on, and that's basically it. So if you're going to load it down with camping gear, then you want the light bike, and then the 300L Rally means you got a shot at doing some of the hard sections. So you get the bonus of 1,000 miles plus all that. There are several others that will do it. Like, you could probably get away with it on Ibex 450. I would do it on the Himalayan 450 and think nothing of it, but I think the 300L Rally is the vehicle of choice to spend an entire week in some of the hardest terrain that you'll find that's legal. Public legal in Kentucky.
Solid choice, man. I went with the PR7 by AJP for all the reasons we've already waxed poetic about the AJP. However, after listening to my partner's detailed description of the 300 Rally, it's probably the better choice, and he certainly has been on that trail once or twice more than I have, so I will defer to his judgment on this particular issue, sir.
All right. Dual Sport crew, where are you at on the Cat?
I think this is going to be the category that we're actually the closest together on. And that's because we're going to pick the CRF 450 RL. And the reason why I say that and Trevor says that, we have a friend of ours, Mr. Nick Bunnell, that has one, and he did the Cat with some friends of ours last year. They did all the hard sections, and I straight up asked him, what would you change about your bike when you got done with that? He said, absolutely nothing. I was able to do everything I wanted. It's got that proven Honda reliability, enough power to get you out of some bad situations. The subframe is not the best, but it's way stronger than a KTM or a Beta, so you're going to be able to pile some more stuff on there if need be. And for that reason, that's why we're picking the CRF 450 RL.
Nice. Trevor, anything you want to add to it?
I'd like to state that Nick saying that he wouldn't change anything, that would include not changing a blown fork seal on the brake side on the front. He is just that type of guy, and great bike for the task. One of my pieces of criteria towards that decision was the subframe's ability to actually support some weight, because some years back I had a Beta 500 RRS and it was extremely lacking in like aftermarket options for like a rack to even throw like a small roll bag or something on. And now some of these Huskies that had for some period of time all injection molded composite plastic subframes, and now they've gone to like a metal and composite overmolded subframe on, I think, all like the KTM, the Husqvarna. I'm not sure about the Gas, maybe it too, but yeah, I mean, a good subframe's a must. You start getting that diving board effect with all your gear hanging off that fender, and it's pretty rough on stuff.
Yeah, we had a friend of ours, Billy Tayo, and his son do the TAT together on CRF 450 RLs, and they proved the reliability is there for a multi-day, long-distance, hard trail. So, and FYI, rest in peace, Mr. Sam. It was sad to see that he passed away, creator of the TAT.
Absolutely good call on that.
All right, so let's move on to the next choose your weapon. We're going to let the dual sport crew run first on this one, and we're going to go with a 20-mile stretch of rush hour commute across Atlanta, including some limited interstate in a 55-mile-per-hour zone, and you're looking at potentially an hour worth of riding.
Well, since my esteemed colleague above me here had one of these machines, I'll let him explain why we decided to choose the motorcycle that we chose.
Yeah, okay, so back to the Beta 500 RRS. That was a rowdy bike. Lightweight, very flickable. You would not be hurting for acceleration and traffic, which is one of the most terrifying and frustrating things of a small bore bike, is trying to deal with traffic in general. There's a lot of instances where being able to accelerate out of, a potential issue, is really the best course of action. The brakes on it were great. You're not going to catch me riding in Atlanta, period, but that would be a strong contender.
James, anything to add?
Yeah, I would echo that sentiment. Like, if I'm going to be forced into that situation, I want the most powerful, just hooligan bike that I can possibly put together. And I think the Beta 500 fits that mold of just being able to get out of a bad situation quickly if need be. If you find yourself needing to turn around, you can flick that thing around, do a U-turn. I don't know what the U-turn laws are in Georgia, but I just
on
think
the interstate, not generally a good idea.
Well, if you had to pick the thing up over the median and go back the other way, I think the Beta would probably be the easiest thing to do that with. So I'm picking the Beta.
If it snows, that's a must in Atlanta.
Yeah, totally.
All right, Adventure Crew, what is your weapon of choice?
Well, as the one that actually lives in Atlanta, I think, no offense to James and Trevor, but I think you guys are going about this subject all wrong, because Drew mentioned a 1-hour time limit going across 20 miles in Atlanta during rush hour, and I'm here to tell you that's incredibly optimistic.
Wow.
It might take me an hour to get half that at times.
Wow.
There is no need for high performance during rush hour, because it is stop and go and stop and go, and there's a lot more stopping than there is going. The roads are in terrible shape. They're not as bad as they are from what I witnessed in Ohio on the interstates, where they almost swallowed up my Ford Transit, but they could swallow a Volkswagen Beetle with no problem. For these reasons, I'm going with the mighty Africa Twin. Caveat has to be the DCT, because you're going to be sitting in traffic, and I need something that's going to be easy to ride and not wear out my clutch hand, and still survive some of the potholes. It's also, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, it's hotter than hell in Atlanta in the summertime. You can pop that windshield off, which I understand might make it a dual sport bike, but in the event that it doesn't, get a little bit of airflow flowing to you. You're right, you don't want to ride in Atlanta on a motorcycle. That said, I've done it many, many, many times, and that's the bike I would choose. Experience wins this battle.
Drew?
Far be it for me to disagree with my much more experienced and wiser co-host / partner.
And older, and more better looking.
Definitely that. Having been fighting construction in Dayton now for, I don't know, the better part of a decade, as it seems. And I'm kind of with the tall boys on this, that I want acceleration. So I believe that I'm going to live some kind of scene out of the Matrix and choose the Ducati Multistrada V2 as the best power to weight ratio option to attempt to weave through this traffic that I have in my, falling green letters imagination. So
You are no Trinity, sir.
show me.
Just on the seat and the foot pegs going.
The thing is, that's the most normal thing they saw in traffic on their drive home. Drew in skin tight leather.
If you hang out up here,
That's it.
if you hang up in Morgantown where I work, you'll see people doing this all the time. Now they're not on motorcycles, and it's hard to tell what kind of exciting things they've taken, but most of them look like that.
Shaking a Tic Tac box at you.
They're just on those Preston County party poppers.
Right.
All right, so we have one final choose your weapon. We're going to let the adventure crew run this one first. And we are going to be trying to teach a new rider the basic rider course over 2 days. What's your weapon of choice?
I don't think anything is going to warm the heart of this audience more than thinking of brand new riders throwing a BMW 310 GS on the ground over and over and over again. That is, in my opinion, probably the most approachable adventure bike that's out there. It is not it's not exceptional for horsepower. It's not super tall. I didn't really look at the stats about seat height and whatnot, but I think when I look at the options here, I'm like, nah, that makes the most sense. And then it's a bonus that it's the one time that you get to just toss a BMW on the ground and not really think about it.
Mark?
Facts. Those are total facts. This is really weird because this is the third time that Drew and I both agreed on the exact same thing. And same. I mean, first of all, BMW has the Riders Academy, so it seems like something that if there was an official beginners riders course, you could actually see BMW stepping in to provide these motorcycles, much like Buell used to do with the Blast, that sort of thing, right? So yeah, the 310, it's hands down the best option for adventure motorcycles in the beginner segment. I'll rest my case.
All right, Dual Sport crew, where are you at with this one?
Question: does it have to be a bike that you can still buy new?
Is it available new on a dealership floor right now?
No. Okay, so I'll go into it. My first instinct was to state like a TW200, because anybody that knows anything about an MSF course has seen T-dubs out there. Low center of gravity, they're a very approachable bike, low seat height. However, in my experience, learning to ride a T-dub teaches you how to ride a T-dub. It doesn't necessarily teach you all the skills that transfer over well to a real, bike that doesn't have 8-inch wide tires. So something like low seat height, relatively lightweight, like a KLX 230, like that's really my thing for new riders, inexperienced riders, etc. Is low seat height, lightweight, and ideally not an abundance of power. Because people's tendency to whiskey throttle is pretty strong when they first start off riding.
James?
I agree that I think it's the KLX 230, and I mean you could probably interchange that with the 150L, any of these smaller
Yamaha
extremely
WR
smaller
125.
board. Yeah, the new
Same deal.
WR. I think any of those in that segment are going to do really well. I think the reason why I would pick the 230 for a new rider is it's easy to maintain. It's got a low approachable seat height, and it's a Kawasaki air-cooled 4-stroke. If you drop it on the ground, so what? You put a new clutch lever on it, you're not going to really tear that thing up. The maintenance is going to be really easy to do on it. We have a gentleman in our club that was fairly new to riding and bought a KLX 230 as his first bike. And we had a training class at our friend Tom King's house, and just showed some basic skills about crossing logs or rock gardens, just some stuff like that. And watching him get on that thing and have the confidence that he could do all those things and wasn't limited was really encouraging to see. And within 3 or 4 hours, he was a completely different rider after that experience. And I think too that a lot of these bikes, especially like that 125 or 150L, if you're a new guy, you start out, you learn how to ride, you're probably going to outgrow that thing pretty quickly. And the 230 kind of bridges that gap of, yeah, it's not the greatest at a lot of different things, but once you learn your skill set on it, you're not outgrowing it immediately. You can still go do some fun events, go do some fun routes on a KLX 230 as compared to like a 150L.
Trevor, what was the bike you were wanting to say that's not available new on dealership floors out of curiosity?
Would you like to take a guess?
I was going to suggest the XT225 Yamaha.
My man, that is
Really?
correct.
Hell
Yes.
to the yeah.
Yep.
Great choice.
My
So-
mother had one. Those are great bikes.
They are criminally underrated because,
Agreed.
to my understanding, you get a 21 up front, a full-size front wheel, and the rears were an 18?
I don't recall offhand. but
17
we
or
had one.
18,
It's a
but-
great bike for that.
Yeah. That's kind of one of my big things of, if you're going to start out dual sport riding, you really need full-size front wheel at a minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've watched guys on supermoto bikes with knobbies, and you can definitely tell in terms of deflection and overall capability and hassle. You're doing a lot more input and trying to adjust a lot more with that wider supermoto style front wheel. But yeah, I'd always kind of wanted a Yamaha TW200 with an XT225 engine in it, which used to be a popular mod on a website I'm not allowed to mention because it rhymes with adventure rider. So
It is a good choice. My brother learned how to ride on my wife's XT225, and first day out, within 10 minutes, went through a giant Jeep mud hole where there's like 18 Jeep tracks because they just keep going around and making it wider and wider and wider. I think he hit every one of those Jeep tracks perpendicular to the Jeep track in a row and right into a thorn bush. So there's a picture of him somewhere with the XT225 laying on top of him, completely covered in mud in a thorn bush. It's
Nice.
a great beginner bike. Yeah.
The XT250 is still out there. I mean, people can still buy those new, so
Yep.
Yeah,
it's
yep.
a great bike.
Our good
that's
friend
correct.
John Trotto has one and did a route we have down outside of Brandywine, West Virginia, going up to places like Union Springs and Reddish Knob. And that road up to Reddish Knob is pretty rough on the Union Springs side. And we're sitting there on our high-strung racehorse KTMs and Huskies waiting for everybody at the top. And then here comes John just plugging right along on that 250. Not that far behind. So those things are extremely capable and underrated.
Heck yeah.
And for some period of time, the XT250 was the last 250cc air-cooled thumper on the market.
Good choice. Good choice.
All right. Well, that concludes all of our segments. I think just for me to throw some 2 cents out there and make a ruling, I think all of the above. Whatever bike suits you is the best bike. Correct?
Especially if it's an adventure bike.
I was going to ask, Your Honor. Yeah, can we make some closing comments on that note just now?
Yeah. For me, it's Appalachian ADV, adventure, and dual sport motorbiking. So I like to ride an adventure bike like a dual sport, and on occasion I'll ride my dual sport like an adventure bike. So I think all of the above is the best answer. It is kind of whatever you happen to own. Maybe I can't purchase the right bike to go to do that West Virginia hand scramble or the
Here, here.
Saddle Store 1000. I have a KLX, I have a Tenere. I'm going to choose one of those 2 bikes to do the thing. So whatever you have is the right bike, as long as you're out there riding it and doing the things, challenging yourself, dropping it, picking it back up, laughing at yourself, and learning something from it. I think that's my ruling.
Do the Tallboys and Trackmasters have any closing comments?
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen of the court, I've once again frozen from a videographical standpoint.
James, did you have anything else?
At the risk of sounding like a cop-out, I would agree with the Honorable Judge Wagner, which thank you so much for gracing us with your presence this evening and ruling on such esteemed and important matters as adventure versus dual sport. I have no room to talk and argue either way, honestly, at the end of the day, because I have one of each. And I feel like if you have one of each, it just widens your range so much. There's days where I don't feel like riding the gas. I want to hop on the Africa Twin and just do some fire roads, some gravel, easy stuff. There's days where I decide I want to take that thing in some nasty stuff, and I'll do that too. But I think that if you have one of each, it just opens up your riding possibilities so much, and you can see the pros and cons of each one. And not only that, the skill sets that you learn on one bike definitely translate to another bike as well. So for me, yeah, I'm going to have to tend to agree that both of them are the right choice.
Well said. Man, I'm not good at closing arguments, but I will agree that whatever you have is the right bike. But I will say that I'm a one bike guy, as I've said many times, and the bike I've chosen for the last 10 years at least is an adventure bike, because to me it can go 90% of the places that a dual sport bike can go with more comfort when I'm touring, when I'm jumping on the freeway to ride to Kentucky. I like to ride to where I'm going, and the adventure bike does it. Can I go in some of the gnarliest haulers of Kentucky or West Virginia? No, not really, no. But, I'm willing to concede that to the dual sport guys in favor of a little bit more comfort and just not having the time to have two bikes right now. When life gets busy, man, I barely have time for the bike I have. I would love to have a second bike, and if I did, it'd be a dual sport. But for now, it's all ADV for me.
What you said there is very true. You got to think there's people that don't have that garage space to have two bikes. And you're going to have to pick one or the other. Or maybe your finances aren't there to own two motorcycles. You got to think that's double the registration fees, double the insurance cost, double the maintenance cost. There's a lot of factors that go into trying to own both of those. So, yeah, if you can only own one, I would say look at the most riding that you do. Like in your case, Mark, you like to ride, you like to tour, you like to ride to the places to do some off-road stuff, and adventure bike suits you extremely well. Maybe you're somebody like us that lives 2 feet from an awesome trail system and you want to hit all that hard stuff. Well, maybe a dual sport makes more sense. So just some other factors to consider.
Well, and I used to be the dual sport guy. I mean, one of the big groups that I formed was the Dogs, the Dual Sporters of Georgia. So for the first half of my riding career, I literally lived 5 minutes from serious off-road trails, and the dual sport bike made more sense. And after a decade, I moved a little closer to the city, and it takes me a little longer to get up there, and life happens. So yeah, there's definitely pros and cons to having a big bike, a small bike, or both bikes. So yeah, man, well said.
As the cheapest guy in the room, I'm definitely going to say that there's some used options out there, and having bikes is more fun than not having bikes. So spending less and getting a bike is still more smiles per dollar than you're going to get. So for the listeners' benefit, obviously a lot of the questions came up, and it's like, hey, I ride my WR on the highway for 50 miles at a stretch, right? It happens, right? And it's a 250 with no windshield as of last year. So all these things are doable on both bikes. It's just a matter of, like you guys said, it's taste, right? Do you want a trailer and get there and then ride the hard stuff? Are you okay suffering on the highway? Do you just want to be comfortable and just take the scenic roads? So you have to figure out what your preferences are.
True.
Agreed. Choose the suck that you can enjoy or enjoy less.
So easy.
For the listeners' benefit, I've been trying to rescue Trevor via the internet.
He's having an internet complete outage right now, and I did ask him, just text him real quick what his closing argument would be, and he just said that whatever bike you have in your garage is the best bike to take, adventure or ADV.
The Honorable Judge Wagner, do you have any final closing comments to shut it down?
I think you heard from all of us. We've all kind of said the same thing. If you have a bike, you're a happy person. Doesn't matter which bike it is. Go out and do it. Have fun. Take chances. Learn something.
With that, we will catch the listeners down the road.